The sun hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the urban landscape where the standoff unfolded. A small bank on the corner of Maple and Fifth had become a fortress, surrounded by police vehicles and barricades that cordoned off the area. The air was thick with tension as a crowd gathered, their murmurs punctuated by the distant wail of sirens and the crackling of police radios. Law enforcement officers moved with purpose, establishing a perimeter while SWAT teams took positions on rooftops, their black uniforms stark against the fading light. Inside the bank, 4 hostages were held captive, an elderly couple, young mother, and her teenage son. Fear etched their faces as they huddled together, unsure of what fate awaited them. Outside, negotiators attempted to make contact with the hostage-taker, but time was slipping away, and each minute felt like an eternity. As officers strategized in hushed tones, it became clear that conventional tactics had failed. The urgency mounted. Frustration simmered among the ranks. Within this charged atmosphere, a figure emerged, a man clad in casual attire, unburdened by armor or weapons. Wahlberg approached the barricade, his expression unreadable yet resolute. In a moment that would change everything, he stepped forward, determined to confront the chaos head-on. As minutes ticked by, the SWAT team remained on high alert, their members poised behind various cover points, eyes fixed on the bank's windows. The tension was palpable. Their mission was to neutralize the threat inside, but they were also acutely aware of the innocent lives at stake. Each officer exchanged worried glances, grappling with the weight of responsibility that came with their training. Every decision held profound consequences. One wrong move could lead to tragedy. Inside their headquarters, the SWAT commanders debated strategy. Weighing the risks of a direct assault against the potential chaos it might unleash, they communicated through hushed tones and urgent gestures, mapping out scenarios and contingencies, their tactical expertise clashing with an overwhelming sense of caution. The hostage-takers' erratic behavior left them guessing, and any overwhelming show of force might provoke violence that would endanger the hostages. In this charged atmosphere, the clock continued its relentless march forward. SWAT officers were trained for these high-stakes events, yet uncertainty loomed large. The lingering fear of escalation hung in the air, leading to a paralyzing standoff where hesitation became a double-edged sword. The need for decisive action battled against the instinct to wait for the right moment, a dilemma that left them frozen as they meticulously considered every possible outcome. Inside the command center, the negotiators were grappling with a mounting sense of urgency as they attempted to establish contact with the hostage-taker. They had set up an emergency hotline and used loudspeakers to deliver their opening messages, but each attempt seemed met with silence or erratic outbursts from within the bank. Frustration seeped into their every word as they struggled to make sense of the hostage-taker's demands, which shifted unpredictably, leaving them guessing at his true motivations. Their communication was fraught with tension. Each time the negotiator spoke, they hoped for a sign of cooperation, yet received only hostility in return. The hostage-taker's voice echoed through the radio, dripping with agitation as he barked nonsensical requests. As time lapsed, the negotiators exchanged glances filled with concern. They knew every minute brought them closer to a potential crisis. Desperate strategies were discussed in whispers. Appealing to the hostage-taker's humanity or offering small concessions seemed like fragile lifelines in a quickly deteriorating situation. Yet, each suggestion was tempered by fears of how further provocation might escalate the violence inside. Outside, officers listened intently to their desperate exchanges over the radio, their hearts racing under the weight of imminent danger, as they felt time slipping away and tensions inside the bank rising uncontrollably. Amid the mounting chaos and escalating panic, Wahlberg's arrival at the scene seemed almost surreal. As he walked through the crowd of onlookers and past the barricades, his demeanor was strikingly calm and focused, a stark contrast to the frantic energy surrounding him. Officers turned their heads in surprise, perplexed by a civilian's audacity to approach the crisis without any protective gear or visible weaponry. His cold eyes surveyed the situation with an intensity that cut through the noise, a mixture of shouting, sirens, and urgent radio chatter. While others hesitated and second-guessed their decisions, Wahlberg's posture radiated a quiet confidence. He exuded a sense of purpose as he moved closer to the hot zone, his mind already formulating a plan that few could comprehend at that moment. Nearby, law enforcement officers exchanged confused glances, their instincts screaming to maintain caution. Yet, there was something about Wahlberg's presence that drew them in, a flicker of hope amidst the oppressive weight of uncertainty. They couldn't deny the potential that one man possessed to change the course of events. As he approached the entrance, With a determined stride, those still gripping their radios held their breath, uncertain of how this unexpected player might alter the narrative that had spiraled into chaos just moments before. As Wahlberg approached the bank entrance, his keen observations began to shape his plan. He noticed the hostage-taker pacing near the front window, agitated and unpredictable, his wild gestures betraying a mixture of fear and desperation. It was clear that beneath the bluster lay a brittle psyche, one that could be influenced, not by force, but by connection. Wahlberg took in the hostages, recognizing their terror yet sensing their resilience. He needed to cultivate an atmosphere of trust rather than intimidation. He imagined a scenario where he could break through the barriers of fear while using calm dialogue as his weapon. Without armor or weapons, he resolved to rely solely on his instincts and verbal skills, understanding that vulnerability could sometimes be more disarming than aggression. He took a deep breath, centering himself as he recalled past encounters with volatile individuals. This was not about overpowering the hostage-taker but about finding common ground. The man was in pain, just like the hostages. Wahlberg resolved to speak softly yet firmly, allowing empathy to guide him as he began formulating key phrases to invoke dialogue. This approach might not only save lives but also defuse a situation fraught with uncertainty, a delicate dance in which persuasiveness was paramount. With his heart racing yet focused, Wahlberg stepped boldly toward the threshold between chaos and resolution. With conviction in his stride, Wahlberg moved past the police barricades, ignoring the startled expressions of officers who shouted for him to stop. His determination to take control of the situation burned within him, driving him forward even as fear and uncertainty gripped those around him. The chaotic scene behind him faded into a blur as he focused solely on the bank's entrance. The lives of 4 hostages depended on his audacity. Wahlberg understood the risks. Stepping beyond the safety of the barricade meant surrendering himself to a volatile environment filled with unpredictable danger. Yet, he felt an unwavering resolve to confront the hostage-taker directly, believing that his presence could shift the dynamic inside. While officers cautioned against his reckless move, Wahlberg's instinct told him that fearlessness could dismantle barriers that had built up between the hostage-taker and his captives. As he neared the door, he could see through the glass, an image of panic mixed with desperation. He recognized that by entering this space, he was not just challenging authority, he was stepping into a role as a mediator, someone willing to reach out where others had hesitated. This was not just about courage, it was an act of solidarity with those trapped inside. Wahlberg's heart raced with purpose as he prepared to face whatever awaited him on the other side. As Wahlberg entered the bank, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The hostage-taker, a man in disheveled clothes, stood tense and agitated, his hands trembling slightly as they clutched a gun. Wahlberg quickly sized him up, noting the sweat beading on his forehead and the wild look in his eyes. With his heart racing but voice steady, Wahlberg took a few cautious steps forward, keeping his hands visible to signal he posed no threat. "Hey, my name is Mark," he began softly, maintaining direct eye contact to establish a connection. "I'm here to help you. Let's talk." The man flinched at the sound of Wahlberg's voice, his grip tightening on the weapon. "Stay back, you don't know what I'm capable of," he shouted, desperation lacing each word. Maintaining his calm demeanor, Wahlberg gently replied, "I don't need to know what you're capable of, I just want to understand what brought you here today. That you're not alone in this." His empathetic tone seemed to pierce through the tension, creating a momentary pause where the hostage-taker hesitated. Wahlberg seized this opportunity. He stepped closer, lowering his voice further. "Let's figure this out together. You have people who care about you. Can we talk about it?" In that instant, Wahlberg aimed to draw the hostage-taker out of isolation and into dialogue, hoping to bridge the emotional gap created by fear and anger. As Wahlberg stood before the hostage-taker, he recognized the turmoil beneath the man's bravado. Leaning in slightly, Wahlberg shared a story from his own life, a moment of vulnerability when he faced significant challenges that made him feel trapped and alone. "There was a time I felt lost too," he said softly, his voice steady and sincere. "I thought I had to fight my way out, but it turned out reaching out was the key." The hostage-taker's eyes flickered with uncertainty, a crack forming in his hardened demeanor. Wahlberg continued, emphasizing empathy and understanding. "I know it feels like no one cares right now, but there are people who can help you if you let them in. You don't have to do this alone." Using storytelling as a bridge, Wahlberg connected their shared humanity, a struggle for dignity amid overwhelming circumstances. He elaborated on how seeking help takes courage and that real strength lies not in aggression but in vulnerability. the tension in the room began to shift as the man's grip on the weapon slackened, revealing glimpses of doubt. "Let's talk this through," Wahlberg urged gently, hoping to guide him toward a choice that would lead to safety for everyone involved. The emotional appeal resonated deeply, turning the confrontation into a conversation where choice replaced desperation, laying groundwork for resolution. As Wahlberg and the hostage-taker navigated their delicate conversation, time became an ominous presence. Each minute ticked away like a countdown to an uncertain fate. The tension in the bank was palpable, creating an almost electric atmosphere that vibrated with impending choices. Outside, anxious officers listened intently through their earpieces. Every word echoed like a distant drum indicating the stakes involved. With 4 lives hanging in the balance, Wahlberg understood that the urgency of the situation weighed heavily on both sides. He glanced at the clock on the wall, each second amplifying the pressure. Would the hostage-taker surrender to reason before desperation took over? He spoke deliberately, pacing his words to buy time and create space for empathy to flourish. Simultaneously, the hostage-taker's emotions swung like a pendulum. Between fierce determination and wavering hope, the grip on his weapon slackened with every moment of connection, but looming doubt still flared within him. Minutes turned to a blur as Wahlberg sought to bridge that gap, knowing that he had no luxury of time. Wahlberg's voice became a soothing balm amid rising tension. He painted pictures of what lay ahead, a chance for redemption and release. As discussions evolved, Wahlberg felt the countdown urging him forward, not just for his sake, but for the hostages who remained at their peril. The seconds continued to dwindle, pushing him to be resourceful and persuasive, with each moment precious in this high-stakes situation. In a moment of profound vulnerability, the hostage-taker paused, his gaze flickering as Wahlberg leaned in closer. "I can see you're scared," Wahlberg said, his voice steady yet soft, "but you don't have to be. You have the power to change this situation right now." The words hung in the air, creating a charged silence that felt almost tangible. The hostage-taker's expression shifted from anger to confusion, as if Wahlberg's empathy had pierced through his defenses. "What do you know about fear?" he retorted, but there was a quiver in his voice that suggested doubt rather than defiance. Seizing the opportunity, Wahlberg replied, "I know it can make you feel trapped. Like there's no way out. I've been there, but it's not too late to choose a different path." As Wahlberg spoke, the tension in the room began to dissipate. The hostage-taker's grip on the weapon loosened slightly, revealing a flicker of uncertainty about his choices. Wahlberg continued, "Imagine walking out of here with your head held high instead of in shame. There's still hope for you." In that pivotal moment, the dynamics began to shift, the possibility of de-escalation emerged. The hostage-taker looked down at the floor, considering Wahlberg's words. The breakthrough was palpable. Trust was beginning to replace hostility, opening a door to negotiation that had seemed firmly locked moments before. As the conversation deepened, a palpable tension filled the air, but suddenly, a sound broke through. The door to the bank creaked open. Wahlberg stepped back slightly as the hostage-taker motioned toward the exit. In that heart-stopping moment, one of the hostages, a young mother, was pushed forward into the light. She stumbled out, visibly shaken yet alive. Outside, a collective gasp erupted from the gathered crowd and law enforcement officers. Hope surged like electricity as they processed what had just happened. The sight of the freed hostage galvanized the officers, their determination to resolve the standoff reigniting as adrenaline coursed through their veins. The mother was quickly enveloped by a team of paramedics who rushed to her side, providing immediate support and reassurance. Wahlberg's heart raced with cautious optimism. This breakthrough signified more than just one life saved. It hinted at a new possibility for negotiation. As he watched the reunion between mother and child unfold amid tears and relief, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The hostage-taker's expression shifted too, uncertainty danced across his face as if he were weighing his next move. "See, it's possible," Wahlberg said softly to him, gesturing toward the emotional scene behind them. "You have that same chance." The moment hung in the air, transforming despair into possibility, setting the stage for further dialogue that could lead to even more lives being spared. With renewed hope in the air, Wahlberg pressed on, skillfully guiding the hostage-taker toward a realization that surrender could be his chance at redemption. Over the course of 17 tense minutes, he maintained dialogue, encouraging the man to think about the future rather than focus on his current desperation. Each moment felt critical. Wahlberg's calm presence began to break through the walls built by fear and anger. As they continued to talk, emotions fluctuated in the bank, an oscillation between resolve and doubt. the hostage-taker's grip on the gun loosened further, evidenced not just by his posture but in the way he began to articulate his grievances. Wahlberg seized these openings, gently steering him towards acknowledging the consequences of continued violence. Finally, in a remarkable turnaround, the hostage-taker lowered his weapon and declared, "I don't want this anymore." The release of tension was palpable. It felt as if a weight had been lifted from the room. Wahlberg encouraged him to step away from hostility entirely. When a final agreement was reached for all remaining hostages to exit safely, officers outside erupted into cheers. Within moments, each hostage's face emerged from the bank, visible relief replacing terror as they were led to safety. Wahlberg's unique approach had not only saved lives but also transformed a deadly standoff into a remarkable display of human resilience and connection against daunting odds. In the aftermath of the standoff, media reactions poured in, captivated by Wahlberg's bold actions. News outlets hailed him as a hero, emphasizing his bravery in walking into a life-threatening situation without armor or weapons. Praise for his calm demeanor and empathetic approach painted a picture of a man who had instinctively understood the power of human connection in resolving crises. Public admiration surged on social media, with many sharing stories of similar acts of courage and compassion. However, not all reactions were celebratory. Critics quickly emerged questioning the law enforcement protocols that had initially left SWAT frozen and negotiation efforts stalled. Discussions erupted about the need for better training in crisis negotiation and whether the presence of armed officers might have escalated tensions rather than diffused them. Some argued that Wahlberg's intervention highlighted systemic failures within law enforcement that necessitated immediate reforms. Experts weighed in, suggesting that while Wahlberg's unique approach had yielded a positive outcome this time, it shouldn't overshadow the importance of proper tactical strategies. As the dust settled, calls for an examination of police response protocols grew louder, making it clear that this incident would serve as both a victory and a crucial lesson for future law enforcement engagements. Amidst varying opinions, Wahlberg's actions remained a testament to courage and hope in tumultuous circumstances. The outcome of the bank standoff sparked vital reflections on crisis management, particularly in negotiation tactics and police protocols. Wahlberg's unconventional approach highlighted the significance of empathy and personal connection as effective tools in high-pressure situations. His ability to engage with the hostage-taker on a human level opened doors that traditional negotiation strategies had failed to unlock. This incident suggests a need for law enforcement to incorporate emotional intelligence training into their protocols, especially in situations where time is critical and lives are at stake. Moreover, the skepticism surrounding initial SWAT hesitance showcased glaring gaps in protocol during a crisis. The incident revealed that officers may benefit from training that emphasizes adaptive thinking and the value of dialogue over immediate force, challenging traditional notions of authority in such situations. Wahlberg's actions exemplified how civilian intervention, when grounded in genuine compassion, can serve as a catalyst for resolution. As discussions emerge regarding systemic reforms within law enforcement, this standoff will likely serve as a case study emphasizing the importance of flexibility and understanding in crisis responses. Ultimately, the lessons learned extend beyond one incident and can reshape future approaches to managing similar high-stakes interactions, making room for unconventional heroism alongside established tactical methods.